Hello, everybody. We are back with episode 30 of Almost a Party. We are down two of our players this evening due to just unfortunate circumstances. They weren't able to make it, but we will continue on and press forward. So, where we last left off our players, they were dealing with the aftermath of dealing with Typhon's Folly and destroying the various statues there and talking to the various people within Typhon about what was going on. Upon traveling back towards Drusus, they wanted to take a detour to find trees nearby in the Joy of Trees that they could use to uh, travel to via transport via plants in the future. And so they took a detour up through the Elven city and into the Joy of Trees and skirted along it until they reached Drusus. We ended with our players arriving at night in the city of Drusus, where they have to report back to Counselor Goodman and then decide where they want to go next. So, as you come in the evening, it is definitely late enough that Goodman would not be available, and so you'd want to find accommodations for the evening. So you have been in Drusus before and stayed in various places. It's up to you what you kind of want to look for, where you want to go.
Do we want to go back to the same inn we were at, well, I guess almost a year ago now?
And did we want to resolve that message? Do that later.
Oh, right. We also had the message that was sent out to Sephin then at the end of the session as well. And so, Sephin, you get this message from Ore explaining about some dwarf that is showing back up in the mountains. But it's not really clear on anything that's being said, as Ore tends to get a little wordy.
So Stefan sends a message back, knowing that the spell is going through Alondiel, and he keeps it 25 words or less. But basically, he says, "Put Alondiel on the phone. What's going on?"
Right. And then Alondiel did type out their reply last week. Let me see if I can find it, since they are not here today. Yes. Okay. So you get a message back from Alondiel saying, "We raided Typhon's lab, freed Dargrame Wraithblade, and bodyguard from Magic Mirror. Claims to be an ancient king. He's returning to Bedrock. Current intentions unknown."
The first thing that Stefan is going to do upon receiving that message is probably share it with the other King's Guard and see if he can get a message off um, elsewhere in the kingdom, because he knows that's a legendary name. He probably wouldn't believe it, but seeing everything that's been going on lately, he can't quite rule it out. And then he would respond to that message and say, "Understood. Thank you for the intelligence. Have passed it on to Dwarven Command. Hope this does not lead to more war.
All right.
See you soon, Seven. Or see you sometime, Seven."
Okay. Alondia will relay that back to the rest of the party and also tell Ore that Sephin says hi specifically, because that was in the first initial response back. Um, and so, with that, the communication with Sephin concluded. You have the place that you can go. So the inn that you had previously stayed at when you were in Drusus almost a year ago, for most of you, for Ore over a year ago, being that you have been here for quite some time, it was the Shining Moon Inn, and you know that that inn books up pretty well full for the King's End Festival, which is coming up in just over the 2 months period.
We should check in soon if we are looking to get rooms.
Fair, but if we're gonna stay here a while, do we want to look for something cheaper, maybe?
Well, just for this evening, the inn should be fine. We could look for longer term accommodations, possibly in the morning if we're looking to stay longer. Perhaps it's more pertinent to have our meeting with Goodman before we make decisions on what we're going to do next.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right. I guess we should go somewhere where we know that we can get a decent night's sleep and maybe breakfast in the morning.
It is
I
a
agree.
wonderful city. I imagine most places will have that, but that's a good start.
Right. And for most of you, you actually are unsure how much the Shining Moon Inn cost because your costs were covered by the council last time as you had um, provided passage and traveled along with your counselors as protection for the last King's End festival, and so all of your accommodations were previously paid for. And that is the inn where a majority of you met, so definitely a fitting place to go and spend a night. Um, so, go ahead.
I just want to say we are technically now on council business going back to report again. Just this
True.
is where we could get away with saying we are on council business. We've come back to report. We're just not walking in the middle of the night because he's probably asleep.
Let's look up a fancier hotel. I don't know how fancy that hotel was, the inn was. It doesn't seem like it's super fancy, but like we've got an expense report and it's like a little bit pricey, but not too bad.
Let's
That's our
let's not
party.
let's not pad it too much because we don't even know if they'll reimburse us.
You
I think
did
we're
come
capped
into a
out
lot
the
of money recently as well.
Yeah, we're
So,
pretty flush.
But you don't get rich by acting like you have a lot of money.
This is a truth.
But fair. It's a familiar place. I remember we liked their food, so
mhm. All right. Yeah, so you can easily return to the Shining Moon Inn. Um, are you looking all for separate rooms or for shared rooms this time?
Ore is always fine to share, usually shares with Alondiel just because it's usually the most convenient. But I'm sure we can afford rooms for everybody if that's the case.
yeah. We pack down into like a small box at this point when we sleep as a party.
Yeah, you really do
Several elves, a
pack
robot.
down. So, yeah, so all and all, um, if you all want separate rooms, it's gonna cost you 3 gold for all 6 of you for the night.
Mizeki will chill in the elf room with the imp, just that is disguised as a raven, just holding his ring for him.
Okay.
Probably invisible, just because why not?
So 2 rooms then, the elf room, and then
And then the not elf room.
the not elf room. So the fey room and the non-fey room.
Yeah, sounds like basically
Okay.
Oh god.
unintentional racism.
All right. So in that case, it's going to be 8 silver and 5 copper for the 2 rooms. There. So
Let's pull that out of the party fund that I think Alondiel has.
yeah, Alondiel is managing that. All right, let me go edit it. Ugh, this is a mess, Alondiel. Okay, 8 silver. He's got it listed as 2 separate things because he hasn't done the math yet for everything. But yeah, that'll work.
We're gonna have to have like a symposium on party bookkeeping.
Yeah, well, because he had the previous group funds that you guys had been carrying, and then the group funds that you guys got from Typhon's lab. He has not added those in yet. He has them written down, but he hasn't added them into the group total fund, which I get. It's much easier just to like add those numbers and be like, I'll deal with this later. So, but yeah, okay, that is paid for from him. All right. Is there anything that you're wanting to do in the evening while you are here?
Ore will do, when he has a moment alone, he'll do a quick prayer to Thalia, and in the prayer, he will ask how she's holding up with whatever's happening with the divines. Not that I expect a reply, that's just what he's going to do.
Okay. Yeah, so you're able to go through your prayers and your rituals. Um, Nothing seems to happen as you finish with them. Is there anything else anybody else is wanting to do tonight?
I am going to get a letter sent home, just vaguely describing in family safe terms what I've been up to and that I'm back in Drusus for the festival.
Okay, to your family?
Yeah.
Okay. Easy enough to do. If you want to write that up later and send it to me, I can get you their reply once that is sent to you. Okay. If there is nothing else, you all go ahead and drift off into your states of inactiveness and sleep. During the night, or as you are sitting there in your motionless state, you begin to remember the last time that you stayed in this inn, and you aren't one that sleeps and you aren't one that dreams, but the last time that you were here, you did both. And as you're reminiscing on this, again, everything goes dark. You're no longer seeing what is on in the room, and instead you see yourself sitting in a chair in a room of Moongazer Spire, looking out. You see Jinzin is there at his workbench, working away, writing furiously. And you see a silhouette of a female figure in the corner of the room. She begins to speak in a language that you don't understand. Jinzin seems to understand and reply, back and forth having this conversation. Although you don't understand the words, you recognize the voice and understand the meaning.
And what is the meaning?
They're definitely talking about you and your future and what is going to happen. And this voice, this female voice, is Thalia, speaking very clearly with Jinzin.
Ooh, like Thalia.
Like Thalia, the Star Mother herself.
Though I don't understand the language, can I ascertain what language it is?
Yes, let me just double check here. So the language is what you believe to be a language of the gods, some form of celestial, but not what the common folk speak and call celestial.
Proto-celestial.
Ancient celestial, more like it.
Like a divine's dialect?
Mm-hmm. So you've definitely heard bits and pieces of Alondiel speaking similarly to this, but not quite the same, and not quite the same meanings in the background.
Do I get any sense of what about my future they're inferring on?
Not entirely, um, but you have this feeling that they have something major planned for you, and Jinzin has got several notes and things spread out on his table. And you notice as you begin looking around more and more of the room that the room is packed up. Everything that you're used to being in this lab is gone. And so this is one of the latest memories that you had before your memories went missing. As this goes on, you realize you've had another memory a few months ago where you heard this same voice speaking with Jinzin.
I do have that memory. In that earlier memory, did I understand what Thalia was saying?
You
Or it's
did.
just I remember that she was familiar, but not. Um, I don't remember exactly. I don't have it written down exactly what she had said. It was something about if I will remember, if I remember right.
Yep. And they were talking about your memories. You get the idea that this is the predecessor to that conversation. And the next thing you know, it is morning, and Sadzi and Ito are up and about. Everything comes back into the room. You all gain your long rest if you haven't taken it yet. And the morning is now yours.
As I exit my long rest and I wake up from this, look around the room a little frantically, and I see. You said I saw Sadzi and I'm sorry, who else is in the room with me?
Ito, because you are the non-phase.
Right. I instantly dive into my bag and I grab some parchment and I start writing everything from that memory feverishly.
All right.
Uh,
Mizeki and Zerdig in your room, you guys all wake up, come out of your trances. Nothing big going on, can go about your mornings as needed.
Wee. Mizeki's gonna go on a light jog around the city, just clip clop around.
Okay.
He enjoys being back in a place that isn't the wilderness again.
Right. And is somewhat familiar. Okay. So Sazi, you see Ore pull out parchment and begin furiously taking notes.
this might be the first time I was still resting when they woke up, right? Because my rests are normally shorter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You alright there, Ori? Seem really sleepy.
I had a dream or a memory. I just need to write it down before I lose it. And I just
Uh,
return to writing.
alright then. I guess let us know if you want anything when you come down for food.
He honestly kind of dismisses what you're saying and just continues to write.
Alright, I'll shrug. Go on downstairs, see what they're offering for breakfast today. Feeling like some fish, maybe if they have it.
Yeah.
I guess it should be said I'm still wearing the mask of expression, and it would be a very pensive look on Ore's face, very determined.
Okay.
So like almost but not quite RBF.
Not not quite, no. Just delved into the work, kind of. Yeah, not trying to be a dick. He's engrossed into what he's like focused on.
Resting researcher face.
Resting researcher face. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the first thing Mizeki's gonna do is after kind of checking in with everybody and establishing a plan of when we want to hang out or whatever, if we want to, Or when we want to go talk to Goodman. Because I don't know, are we doing that first thing in the morning? Are we waiting for a little bit? And if we're not going immediately, he's gonna eventually make his way over to the library and like get himself a spot set up, I guess.
Okay.
So that he can come back to later.
Right. Alondia will definitely be the one to encourage that you go see Goodman as soon as possible, because
Yeah.
you do have bits and pieces that you would like to talk about, and see what resolution you can come to, especially concerning the new nation and everything that you experienced in Typhons.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to go through. But it's one of those like, is he gonna be like open for visiting at like 9 a.m.?
Yeah, could maybe Alondiel and I go and wherever the counselor's office is and see if he's open for visits, or can we make an appointment or whatever?
Yeah, you definitely can. Given that it's a new day, Alondiel can actually send the message just right from the inn to Goodman himself, asking for an appointment. So without you even needing to go anywhere, but you can go in person if you would prefer.
I just feel like waking up in the morning to someone whispering in your ear, "Hey, can I get an appointment?" You'd be like, "No."
Yeah, not gonna lie, I would probably be like, no, go away, automatically.
But yeah,
Plus,
so basically, whenever we can get in to visit him, I think he's definitely high priorities. We've got a lot of important information, in particular the threat of Typhon and all that jazz.
well, and it might not be a bad idea to walk around Drusus and kind of refamiliarize ourselves.
No, because if we do that, we'll get pulled into some other side quest thing that the GM didn't plan for. And then we'll never let them know.
All the side quests in Drusus.
Yeah. We're in a side quest hub now. It's dangerous.
Yeah, you're in the capital city of the continent.
Dad's house.
So,
Or, we could ignore things.
right. And I mean, instead of going to Goodman, you guys could find out if Marble's in town and go talk with Marble instead.
I think we would much rather talk to Marble, right? Don't we like Marble more? I don't remember. It's been a
So,
while since
so
we chatted
Marble
with
is
them.
the Grand Counselor. So Goodman is the counselor over Drusus,
Yeah,
and
Goodman's
so
the local. Yeah.
yeah, so he was the one that suggested you go out on this mission and to do that. So like he's the one that actually hired you. Marble might
Yeah.
be the better one to talk to about the new nation,
Yeah.
but
Well, and this does feel like a we got to talk to the president thing instead of like the guy who was in charge of the area, just because like the Typhon thing's a big deal. Like that's a world-threatening thing.
Can we maybe see if we can get time with both of them? Possibly at the
Yeah,
same time?
it is a big deal.
yeah, you could definitely see when that might happen. So that again begs the question: do you want Alondiel to send a message, or do you want to go in person and set up an appointment?
We haven't spoken to Marble since we found out more information about the Tabaxi divines forever ago, right?
Yeah, I gave you the information about the Tabaxis, and you guys have done nothing with it.
Well, except speculate on the side, but yes.
Correct.
Yeah,
You did a
exactly.
lot of speculation.
That's
So,
what we do.
but,
Wildly speculate and dethrone governments.
but yeah, you haven't reported on it to anybody. So if it was something you wanted to report on, then that is definitely something you could do, and that would definitely be something better to Marble
Yeah.
than to
I
Goodman,
feel like
because
we walk in, with like a list.
Yeah,
We
I
have
agree.
we have
That's
a
certainly for
list.
Marble.
I mean, weren't we speculating that possibly his husband's involved?
Yeah, yeah. Because of the relationship between Shadow and what is Marble's husband's name?
Agile.
I can't. Agile. Yeah. Because of the mythology behind those names, certainly is worth talking to Marble about that mythology and see how it ties in.
I feel like we start with the things we know are probably true first, and then get to the speculative stuff.
Sure. Report our
Gotta work
actual
up to that.
doings. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you don't come in and start with, by the way, conspiracy theory. Sit down. You're going to need to.
I brought my own board.
So basically, go report on everything you did from Typhon's first, and then start
Yes.
talking about all of your other speculations.
Yeah, and then we'll go in and we'll be like, okay, so now we're going into what conspiracy theories? Are you ready?
Yeah,
We have PowerPoints.
because you have some other things that you have picked up along the way that are speculations that you could share with Marble as well, given his position. And again, Goodman doesn't necessarily need to hear them, but could.
Yeah.
So
I feel like we should let Goodman know we're going to talk to Marble. If not immediately after, then like, I don't know. Because like we're not trying to like snub Goodman intentionally, right? Like we're just we feel like this is
Well,
more important.
We could see if we could get, I guess, an appointment with both Marble and Goodman to talk about what we found in Typhon's Folly, since Marble needs to hear most of it anyway, and then be like, okay, and then we need to talk to just Marble alone about
Yeah, I think
other
the
things.
Marble information should be 1-to-1 with Marble.
Yeah, I don't think anyone else needs to hear that in case our speculations are like wildly off base. And if they aren't off base, that may not be information he wants getting out.
Exactly. This same thing. Like it should be Marble's ears
Sorry.
only first.
I'm just imagining accusing like Angela Merkel of when you think your spouse is an evil person.
okay,
No. It's your spouse's evil twin.
Yeah, we think that your spouse's evil twin is a Bond villain.
so here's another thing to consider, and this is something that you will know as characters. You don't really ever get to meet with the counselors without their golden shields there, and Agile, in addition to being Marble's husband, is the golden shield for Marble.
I feel like this is a situation where we're going to ask Marble if we can have a different golden shield briefly watch over the meeting because we have concerns.
Right. In which
Or we
case
can
you
have-
would get Ivia, who is Goodman's golden shield.
Yeah.
Because she's going to be the other one in town.
Yeah.
And
I
we
feel
already
like
know that
that's okay.
Sadzi
Unless
doesn't
it's a
like her
huge
because she's an
conspiracy.
ASMR.
I don't know. It might be almost more interesting because then if like, what if they like give each other knowing glances and then we're like, ah!
I don't know. This is difficult and complex. Why can't we just turn in our badge and gun because we're a loose cannon?
I mean, you could. You'd be like, we don't want to work for you guys anymore ever. Because every
I don't
time
know.
we do, it just ends poorly for everybody involved.
We're
Yeah.
getting too old for this.
Yeah.
I mean,
my last day on the force.
I don't know, Mizeki. Would you want me in the room if like somebody was going to accuse accuse you of me having an evil twin?
Yeah, that'd be hilarious. All right, let's go for it. Let's go for it. We'll keep Agile in the room. We'll be like, Agile, we have concerns.
Okay. All right.
Especially because of the thing where we know that the guy's head and all that jazz wasn't the dude they thought it was. Remember last time?
It's like, so Agile, would you like to talk about your family?
We're gonna
Yeah.
host an intervention. Let's go.
Okay. So you make your way to Goodman's office to set up an appointment with Goodman and Marble. Who is going to set up that appointment? I know that Miseki ran off to the library.
Yeah, I don't have an ability to.
Ora is
chat remotely,
furiously
so.
scribbling notes.
Zergig
Sadzi
is
and
probably just
Alandio.
out on the town.
I guess, yeah, Sadzi and Alandio can go and
Okay. All right. So easy enough. You arrive, Sadzi with Alandio, at the office of Counselor Goodman. Go inside, and you are greeted by Avia. We were expecting you to return shortly. We didn't know exactly when, but the other group informed us of what you shared with them. we're definitely interested in hearing the full tale from you. Goodman will be available in about an hour, if you would like to come back then.
Okay. We would like to also bring in Grand Counselor Marble as well, as I think he'll want to hear some of what we have to discuss. Are you able to talk to his office, or should we go over there and see if we can get an appointment and come back?
I can reach out to him, but he's not in town today. He's out on some business elsewhere. If it is truly urgent and he needs to be here, I'm sure we can arrange for him to come home. But is it something that you can just let us know and then we will report to him later? Does he need to know today?
I think it's best that he be present when we discuss our findings with Counselor Goodman, simply to avoid any omission or unnecessary duplication. Do you know possibly when he will be back in town and when we can meet with Marble and Counselor Goodman at the same time?
I know his plan was to return about 2 weeks before the King's End Festival, as travel at this time of year is quite busy, and he has a few things to take care of, especially with the situations that are going on down in the wild where he is from. And
Yes, I'm aware of the upheaval in the wild. And I'd probably turn to Alondiel and be like, "Do you think we need to poke him and make it more urgent, or?" Because I'm inclined to say sooner rather than later.
I mean, we've got time before the King's End Festival if he's coming back. I mean, I already want to go to that given what we learned from the Harringtons.
Yeah, and I definitely want to be there too. Um,
And I mean, as far as timing goes, like what we found out in Typhon's lab, yeah, it's important, but we dealt with it. It shouldn't be a major threat that we need to do immediately, I don't think.
okay. In that case, if we can just simply get a message to Marble that we would like to meet with him and Counselor Goodman, that it is important but not necessarily urgent. But we'd like to see him as soon as he gets back.
Ivia looks, nods, and goes, "We will let him know. Do you still want to meet with Goodman today, or do you want to wait until Marble returns to report back?"
That's going to be about 6 weeks from now, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's about 7, closer, about 7.5.
Okay. Can we give her just like a real bare bones of, we went, we checked it out. There were some issues, we mostly dealt with it.
You want to give that to Ivia? You don't want to wait and come back to Goodman in an hour?
Yeah, let's wait for Goodman, and then we can give Goodman the report of his area, and then keep the information for Marble for later, and just explain to Goodman like we want to share this with you when we have everyone.
Yeah, I guess let's wait for Goodman to come back, and then we can kind of give him the details of what he specifically asked us to check on. And then when we're able to sit down with Marble as well, then we can talk about like some of the issues, like the stuff we found in Typhon's lab and all that.
Okay. I'm also assuming that you're wanting to talk to Marble about the nation and what the people of Hamlet have said.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that seemed to be a pretty important message from the other group, and they were quite insistent that something be done about it. Goodman has noted and put it on the agenda for the meeting before the King's Festival this year.
Yes, it did seem to be an issue of some uh great importance to the mayor and Hamlet double M double T. And it does seem that the idea has some support, some significant support there.
Good to know. It's not anything I can do about it, but more information coming from those who have been there to Goodman will be good to help press on it. So we will see you back in an hour. Will it just be the two of you, or will the rest of your group be accompanying you when you come to report?
I believe we'll have more members of the group simply so that we can give a more comprehensive report with everybody. It will depend though upon who can be available at the time. So probably most of us.
Very well. We will see you back in an hour then.
All right. And then Alondiel and I can, I guess, go back to the inn and let everyone know who's there.
Right, which I believe is going to be everybody but Mizeki, because Mizeki has gone to the library.
Yep. And I'm easily reachable.
So, and then Zerdik said that they wanted to go walk around town as well. So I guess Zerdik will not be there. But Ito and Ore are still hanging out in the room.
Oh, I could have left my raven with them, can't I? Isn't
Oh,
that
right,
range as long as I'm on like a plane? Yeah.
you
Okay,
have a
so I'll just
raven
leave my
now.
raven with them.
Wait,
And we can communicate telepathically.
you did a raven? I thought you wanted to do.
It's an imp, but it looks like a raven.
Okay.
They can change forms. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So he right now he appears as a raven, so he can fly. And looks cute.
Okay.
And not completely scary, huh?
Well, he gets a 20 more fly speed, and it doesn't change any of his other stats when he's airplane.
All right. So do you have the voice of the Chain Master, Stir?
No.
No.
I just have
Just Pact of the Chain.
Find familiar, yeah. Which I think just lets me communicate. Is that the close one when he's only within 30 feet or something? Okay, it's only within 100 feet, so never mind.
Yeah. So 100 feet. Voice of the Chain Master is same plane. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He can come tell me though.
Correct.
I guess if we need.
Okay.
Yeah, because I have ever living ones, not Chain Master.
All right. So Zerdik, what are you wanting to do around town?
Zurich is just living his best life. So we went to Steel, but we were there only for a little bit. So this is his first extended like leisure time in this big city above ground. So he's probably just, taking in the sights, going to that rock candy cart and being like, "Puh, this isn't authentic at all," and trying out the fine cuisines and things like that.
The rock candy cart is not here because that is brought in by dwarfs for the festival. And since that isn't going on yet, that is not set up.
There's not a single rock candy he can disparage in the entire city.
You can always
find-
disparage the local treats.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can
we'll
find
do that.
some local one, but since you specifically said the cart, I'm like,
Sorry, that's what I
that
meant.
is
Yeah,
not there.
he'll go to like a local one that says it's like dwarven rock candy, but it's not,
Mhm.
and then
You'll go to a local sweet shop.
But other than that, he wants to be working on his big gun that he found the schematics for in Steel. So he'll probably do that quite a bit.
Okay, yeah, that's stuff that you can easily do in your room while you're there. So yeah, Sadzi, you return back to find Ito and Ore and a raven in the inn, with Zerdig and Mazeki off elsewhere.
Okay, so we have an appointment with Counselor Goodman in about an hour or so. Ore, are you ready to go? And do you know where everyone else is?
I apologize for my thoughtlessness this morning. I do not know where everyone else has left to. I am ready to go at any time, as needed.
Okay, is that Mizeki's creature?
The raven will say, "Bird, library," and then bonk gently at Ori's side.
Okay.
I believe this raven wants to go to the library.
Or maybe that's where Mizeki is.
And he'll bob up and down aggressively in response, as birds are wont to do.
Okay.
That
So,
seems much more feasible, yes.
and do we know where Zerdig is? I mean, I guess if he's
He's just tinkering in the hotel room that has a workbench for him, apparently.
The other room.
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry, an inn.
I'll knock on the door and ask him if he can come to a stopping point so that he can come with us when we give this report.
It's like when you're playing video games, your mom's like, "Finish the level, it's time for dinner." So he's like, "We've got to go
Pretty
make a report,"
much.
but much more polite than that, right?
Pretty much like, Zerdig, we need to go talk to the counselor. Can you find a spot to stop so that we can go do that?
I can't
But
pause it,
Shazi, I
Mom. It's
don't
online.
wanna.
I can't say
Game's
that.
online.
Yeah, he'll say he can. It will take a few knocks because you hear some sawing and welding and other magical means of artifice. But eventually he'll hear you and say very loudly, "What? Hi, Sazi. Happy to see you."
Out of character, this sounds exactly like me when I'm in a sewing project.
And then he'll agree to go.
Yeah. So I guess we'll round up Ori and Zerdig once he can be pulled away. Me and Alondiel and Ito, and we'll go to the library so that we can get Mizeki.
Well, the bird will fly off as soon as you start gathering people. And it'll go get him and tell him to come back.
Would the bird do that without us, like, explicitly telling it to?
It's not a bird, it's an imp. It's intelligent. It's got an 11 intelligence. It's smarter than a lot of people. I think it's smarter than
This is true.
Ito.
But just because it's intelligent doesn't necessarily mean it'll do. It would
Well-
think ahead to do that.
Mizeki would have told it to come get him when it's time. So,
Fair enough.
because he knew like we're gonna be separated, and if they're gathering up to come get me.
Yeah, it's definitely not smarter than Ito, because I think with the
Why does Ito have a 15 intelligence?
Why not? I was gonna say, with the exception of Zerdik, I'm pretty sure Ito is the most intelligent party member.
Ito is
For-
very smart for a fighter.
Well, all of our party is very smart for how much we screw up things regularly. Yeah, wow.
Intelligence, not wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anywho.
Almost everybody has the exact same intelligence. Zerdik's out there ahead, but everybody else is 14, except for Ito, who is a 15. So.
Nice.
That is an above average intelligence for a party, because intelligence is one of those stats that gets dumped a ton.
Yeah, it looks like most people dumped wisdom or charisma.
Mine was strength because I'm a sorcerer.
Yeah.
Ore's was very obviously charisma.
Oh, except for Mazeki. Mazeki dumped con.
Mizeki dumped con. It's still a 10.
Yeah.
That's why Mizeki gets grievously wounded with a scratch.
Yeah. So, and Alondiel dumped strength, but yeah. that you're not a super charismatic party. Sadzi and Mizeki are your charisma.
I'm just cute. I'm a cute little cat.
Kitty.
It works.
I am a cute little horseman.
Right.
All right,
Little.
to the office.
Okay. So yeah,
Honestly, for a horseman, I am little.
you are able to
We
make your
know.
way towards that. As you are on your way to the library, you do encounter Mizeki with his raven heading back towards you. As you all meet up, you are able to head over to the counselor's office where he is ready and waiting for you. As Avaya guides you in to the room, she stands in the corner waiting for protection, and Counselor Goodman speaks out. He goes, I must thank you all. You've done a great deed for us in finding out what is going on with Typhon's lab. We got your report through the other group, but I am sure there is much more that you have to tell us that you could not convey to them in a reasonable time. So, what would you like to report back? Don't all speak up at once.
Okay. So we did go to Hamlet of the double M double T, and we did get a guide into Typhon's Folly, and there we found a rather interesting building that apparently contained the lab of Typhon. And he was conducting some apparently terribly repulsive spells, and that was the cause of the past disappearances of children. There was also involved a magical statue that the villages in the area had developed a tradition or folklore of wishing on the statue, and apparently this statue was also linked to Typhon's lab, and sometimes somehow children would be magically transported to the lab for these experiments of Typhon's.
What is of the statue now?
We destroyed it.
It has been severely destroyed.
The pieces may still reside outside the village of Vinewood.
I feel like
That
we
was
would
the
have
name of the
taken
place,
a
right?
piece with us. I mean, I know it just turned into regular rock, but I feel like we would have stolen a piece.
Taking a couple pieces feels on brand.
Yeah, I mean, I think we would have taken some pieces, like,
That's what I thought. Like, that feels on brand to us. So we can like give
small
him some
fist
rock
size.
pieces. Like these are just normal rocks now, but they come from the statue. We
Yes.
also probably have a drawing that Alondiel made of it.
Oh yeah, he probably would. Yeah. So yes, the statue was of a woman holding a child. We think that the child may be a representation of Typhon. We're not sure about that, but yes, as my friends have said, we destroyed the statue not far from the village of Vinewood. If you need to or wish to go collect the pieces further.
All right. Alondiel will chime in here at this point and talk about what it was like when the statue granted a wish, and how you went about it, singing a song in whatever language that you chose, and how the statue would react. As you give all this, Goodman just kind of looks appalled with everything that happened and that you're telling him, and he goes, "Do we know if there were more than one statue, or if it was just the singular one causing all of this?"
From what we were able to ascertain, it was just the one.
Yeah, and we didn't hear any reports of any others. And we saw the statue before we went into the lab, and we saw it after. It seemed to move in sort of a rotating pattern among several villages in the area. And I believe when both times that we saw it, it appeared to be the same statue.
It moving would explain why so many villages had their own tales of it, as you reported.
And the way we're guessing it worked based on our experiences is that when the statue moved on to a different village, the last village it was in was where any children that it helped transport would be taken from. Because we first encountered it. I'm checking my notes here.
Landiel will chime in Branbu.
Okay, we first found it in Brambu, and according to what we heard, it had been seen in, I think, Blue Lake, was it? Before
Yes.
that.
And Blue Lake was
The,
after.
the
Blue Lake was
wishes that
after?
were conducted in Brambu while the statue was there abducted children from Blue Lake. Once we reached the city of Blue Lake, the statue had moved there, so it may have been that the children were being abducted from the next location that it was going to appear.
Okay, yes. But I may have gotten the direction wrong, but yeah, it was definitely moving in like a cycle.
So you said the statue granted wishes, but it took the children to grant a wish. What about those who would have wished for their child back? What happened in those cases?
We don't have a complete history of the functionality.
We're not
we were
sure.
more concerned with eliminating the threat it posed to the local environs before it traveled to an area we couldn't track down.
All right. And Mizeki, you would have kind of a better idea than anybody else, given the wish that you asked was along those lines.
It basically gave me a no, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't a hard no.
You know,
Yeah, he would explain like it effectively. It seemed to indicate that that was possible, but that it wasn't maybe either willing or able to do the thing I asked for.
Well, I mean, the thing was, is we encountered the statue outside the Bamboo the first time. We were escorted there by a local. The local told us about the singing the wish to the statue thing. The statue answered.
Did not grant every wish.
No, but didn't it answer like 3 of our wishes?
so
And we found 3 children in the lab.
yeah, so it was 2 of yours and then 1 of the villagers.
That's right, because there was the one who came up just before we got there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're forming our, I guess, hypothesis of you make a wish, the wish gets granted, it takes a child. Because that corresponds.
Now, part of the report we'd gotten back was that there hadn't been any children that had gone missing from Hamlet in over 100 years.
Hamlet may have been further along on the statue's traveling cycle.
We have several guesses, but it's all speculation.
Yeah, effectively. We did find some gravestones that listed the ages of children and several of the villages around, and those may correspond. It would probably be very difficult at this point, at such a far remove, to have a record of everybody who made and was granted a wish and all of the children that were missing.
Especially because if this was truly Typhon, it'll have to have been functioning for well over 1,000 years.
Well, we did also find some, I guess, spare bodies for Typhon in the lab. So I'm not sure if perhaps the missing children were used to keep those bodies in stasis, or at least from decaying over time, or exactly what um, the children who were taken were being used for. But we found evidence of um, created monsters, sacrifice, and um, several other magical implements that did not seem to be anything uh, savory, let's say.
Archmages have been known to live for a long time, and many of them use various means to extend their life. It sounds like perhaps he had attempted to clone himself, but for whatever reason his spirit could not enter a new body.
From our experience, we have ascertained we destroyed his copies before we engaged a fairly large plant creature in that lab, to which an additional body was of Typhon's was ejected from. We believe he was integrated with the plant when we defeated the plant. This again is speculation, but it corresponds to our reporting so far.
So Typhon was alive this whole time, trapped in an abomination he created.
That is our estimation.
Did you
Con-
find anything else of import while you were there?
we did find several smaller plant monsters that we suspect may have been previous captured children. And there was a magic mirror that tried to take some of our party, but we destroyed it, and our party members were released.
I'm not gonna mention the dwarves.
I ain't saying shit about the dwarves.
I'm not saying anything about the dwarves either.
Cool. That's what I figured. Okay.
And if Zerdig starts to speak up, I'm going to kick him.
I feel like we would have talked about that on the way back. Be like, by the way, we're not mentioning this.
Yeah, he keeps his mouth shut.
Yeah.
Zerdig is just so long for the ride. He's like our intern.
Yeah, I mean, he's just like his whole history is he came up from under the mountain and it's just like followed you guys' various hijinks. And then whenever we talk to the council, he's like, I'm not gonna say anything.
Well, I mean, considering his opinion of the council, I could see him just being like, I ain't telling you guys anything.
Exactly.
Okay. What of the lab itself?
It remains, to the best of our knowledge, as well as the graveyard outside.
Yes, several hours outside of Brambu, wasn't it?
We have a
Correct.
rough map. I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was going to present the rough map as this is our approximation of where you will find the lab in the region.
And if you wish to interview the children that we rescued, they do live in Blue Lake, and we can give you those names. I'm sure people would know where to find them.
I'm sure their parents would appreciate if we paid them a visit. Who should we go and look for in Blue Lake?
Their names are Evan, um, is roughly about 6 or 7. Rosemary, she's about 10. And then Michael was the youngest, and he is about 3, so you may not get much information from him. They're all human children.
We will pay them all a visit. Thank you. Is
And
there anything else that you'd like to let us know?
that is the results of the missing children that we investigated in Hamlet and the Typhon's Folly area. There is another concern that we would address with you, but I do feel that that's better brought up when we also have the presence of Grand Counselor Marble, as it will be of import to him as well. It's nothing that is an emergency.
Is this about creating the new nation? How they wish to separate from Drusus?
The
It's one of
mayor,
the topics.
yes, the mayor did speak with us about it. He had said that he had sent messengers to the council and received no response. But based on both what the mayor and some of the townspeople that we spoke to, it does seem that there is some support for the idea. Significant support. So I do believe that may be a conversation better held in conjunction with the Grand Counselor, as ultimately it will be between the two of you, if that nation is to be created and under what terms.
You traveled through most of the villages and cities there. Do you think that they could support themselves without the resources that we provide?
I believe their major concerns are they are feeling unrepresented at this time.
Doesn't sound like you give them very much. Zerdig blurts out.
They do seem mostly self-sufficient. Their concern is that their priorities may be getting lost in comparison to the concerns of Drusus, which as a larger city has a different scale of things that may become issues and issues that may be entirely separate from them.
I feel like the true answer to that question is if you can't answer that question comfortably and you don't communicate with them regularly, then that's probably the root of their concern. It sounds like they haven't heard from you at all in quite some time. And I believe that they are feeling somewhat disenfranchised and may take action on their own soon.
I agree. They did seem to be quite disgruntled about the fact that they have had little to no communication from the council, and they feel that they are not being heard. And we did discuss with the mayor, I believe it's Amberford, that we would make sure that the message did get to you, because he was so frustrated that upon hearing that we were representing the council in any way, he wished to kick us out of the city almost immediately.
On a personal note, I suggest if you can avoid dealing with him directly or choosing another representative of his community to speak on their behalf, I would encourage that. However, I do believe special consideration needs to go to his grandmother. The information she provided us for finding Typhon was invaluable, and I would like that to be a record of note.
Noted.
Yes.
Was there anybody in particular that you came across that you think would be the best representative to talk to about the nation?
We did come across several villagers who seemed to be leaders in their community. I'm uncertain if they would want the responsibility of being a representative to the whole area. Kavorn and Brambu was our guide and was seemed to be in a bit of leadership in his village. He was very well spoken and seemed to have concern for the people in his village. And I believe he would have similar concern for the other people in his area.
All right. So either the mayor's grandmother or this Kavorn in Branbu would be who you recommend that we talk to.
I would recommend you talk to Mayor Amberford's grandmother. She's very elderly, and I believe it would be beneficial to talk to her for information, but I do not think she would be able to be a representative to the communities at large.
Okay. Thank you for your report and your concerns. When Marble returns, I will send for you, and we will have another meeting then.
Yes, please. We would look forward to that.
Well, you have done us a great service and found out much that we did not know was even going on. Not many venture out into the wetlands of Typhons, as we knew that it was a danger.
With all due respect, sir, I believe more people should venture out there because that's what's created the unrest that you're hearing of. And they're wanting to basically secede to be a new nation. It's this perception of the area as scary or dangerous that I think has fostered a lot of the estrangement they're feeling. It is an area in which one needs to be careful, yes. I wouldn't disagree with that at all. But simply because something is difficult is no reason not to do it.
On a personal note, I would suggest the construction of roads between the villages. We had to traverse poor conditions to go from village to village in this expedition. There does seem to be a need for infrastructure to allow them better trade and transit amongst the villages.
And several of the villages are built above the surface of the swamp. A similar type of trail, if you will, could be built in some of the more damp areas as a boardwalk, I guess you could say. Um, and the individual villages could be, I guess, asked to maintain responsibility for certain areas around them so that the roads are maintained, and perhaps um, someone could be appointed to check on the roads periodically to make sure that they're still in good repair. Because Ori's right, if we didn't have some of the abilities that our party members have, it would have taken us 2 or 3 times as long to get to Typhon's lab, the various villages, and to be able to have done anything.
I will do what I can. One thing before you go. And he opens up his desk drawer and he pulls out a pouch and hands it to Ivia, who brings it around and hands it over to you. Payment for your work. Thank you again.
We appreciate your your recompense and also for your time and allowing us to speak with you about this.
Mizeki will pick it up with his imaginary invisible ghost hand and put it in Elandiel's bag.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else that you guys would like to bring up with Goodman before you take your leave?
If available, is there any news of the situation in Kuche and Bracknell?
I'm not the one to answer that for you. I get information as best as I can, but that would best be answered by Marble or someone else who has been appointed to work and serve in that area. I'm busy enough with Drusus that I don't keep up with everything that is happening there.
Understood.
I do know that it's not good, but we have sent many people to try and improve over the last few weeks. I don't know what has become of them.
Sadzi's mumbling to herself, well, no shit, it's not good. You know, one of the head leaders of Bracknell got killed.
As Sadzi is muttering that, or I will speak a little aloud. Thank you again for the opportunity to help serve the realm. It has been our privilege.
All right. Okay. As you all have this conversation, Ivia leads you back out of the councilor's chambers out into the waiting area and then takes her leave back, leaving you to either just kind of hang out here or continue on throughout the city. But you have the rest of the day.
So yeah, let's find out how much is in the pouch really quick. I'm just kind of curious since we usually wait until
Ditto.
weeks later before we double check how much we actually got paid.
Hmm. So you open up the pouch that was slid into Alondiel's bag. It is an additional 1,000 gold pieces. So I will go ahead
Hooray.
and add that to Alondiel's character sheet.
What happens is our tax guy is on elf time.
I'm all for this.
Right.
Loopholes.
Okay.
So, okay. Um I'm guessing Mizeki might be going back to the library since we've made our report.
I mean, barring anything else exciting to do along the way, that's
Mhm.
probably his plan.
If you don't mind, I would like to join you.
Of course. It's not my library after all.
I'm aware. It's mine.
I might see if there's somewhere I can go to get information about the situation in the wilds because I do still have family there. Unless our DM killed them off again.
Guess you'll have to find out.
What? DM kills your parents one time and I'm paranoid.
Yeah.
Well, he killed my father.
Who hated you?
True.
Well, yeah,
Well,
but
Both accounts.
she wanted to kill him. That's the problem.
Is there a gazette or any kind of news service, heralds, anything along those lines in this town?
There are. It is usually local news. You don't get much outside of that, given just how large Drusus is. There is a lot that's going on there. Occasionally, you'll get bits and pieces of more national news that is further out into the nation, but again, most of that then comes from Orthrus. And so everything off to where basically on the opposite side of the Black Pond into Typhon's Folly, like just never makes it here.
Gotcha.
Could we maybe go hang around the other counselors' offices and see if we can get any, I guess, hearsay, gossip, news from any of them?
You want to go hang out at Marble's office? Because that's the other counselor office.
We could hang out at Marble's office.
Yeah. Okay. So, Ore and Mizeki want to make their way to the library, and Sadzi wants to make her way to Marble's office and just kind of hang out there, see what information she can gather. Zerdig, anything particular? Back to work?
Yeah, back to work mainly. I mean, if we do a patented dinner scene, then he'll show up for that.
Right.
But
Okay.
mainly just seeing the sights and then working on his gun. He's finally got a concerted time that he can actually work on it, so that's going to be his like number one goal, even though there's all these cool sights to see.
Okay. Yeah, Ito will accompany you with whatever you do there, Zerdig, and Alondia will go and pay attention to the temple. So as you
I
guys
figured.
Leave the counselor's office and begin to make your way in your different directions, you hear a voice inside of your head as you start taking steps about 10 feet away from the door. Excuse me. May I have a moment of your time? This voice, it sounds a bit rugged, not anything that you're used to, and it's happening inside your head. You can tell that clearly.
I mean, for Mizeki at this point, this is hardly unusual, so he'll respond first in his head, and if he doesn't hear anything back, he'll say out loud quietly, "And who might you be?"
So you respond, and you get a response back, and he goes, "My name is Aegon, and I'm in need of assistance. I traveled a long way looking for people that could help." And he goes, "Look to the south, and you will see me." And so
Was
Mizeki,
this in everyone's head or just Mizeki's?
so it's in everybody's head for the first part. The
Even us.
response is just to Mizeki, but the first
Gotcha.
part was the "Excuse me, can I have a moment of your time?" That was in all of your heads.
Is that localized to this party, or is it all of us, like even back at the inn?
This is
We
as
haven't
you're
left.
stepping out from,
Yeah, right as we're leaving.
yeah, like as you're splitting up to go into your different directions.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So I'm gonna have Derecho look over. Mizeki won't. Mizeki will just keep walking, but he'll look over and I'll look through his eyeballs.
Okay.
See what we see.
So as you look, you see there is a creature that you're not used to seeing. You've heard tales of them, but it's not one that you've seen very much. It's a creature, looks vaguely insect-like, has 4 arms, and is wearing fairly nice cloaks, and is covering up, and you can see his mandibles and antenna are just kind of going. I mean,
Is it a Thrycreen?
it is indeed a Thrycreen.
Nice. I don't think Mizeki would really know what that is at all, except for the stories.
Mhm.
But he will indicate to the others, kind of with his arm and pointing, and shrug and kind of turn that way, I guess, and head over.
Okay.
I am very confused.
All right. Does anybody else respond to the voice in the head, or just as Mizeki gets attention?
Oh, hello. What are you? Zerdik will say. Not as freaked out as maybe he should be.
He goes, my name is Aegon. I come from the floating belt. I've been traveling looking for someone that can help. I looked all around in the great city of Steel and various other places over on Manway, but my only payment wasn't something that they could accept. And so I figured I needed to leave and see if anybody here would be more willing to accept it in exchange for helping my people.
You're gonna pay an exposure.
People die of exposure.
Ore, after the first comment, would have just started looking around to see if he could isolate who was talking before he even thought about responding in his head.
And no, it's not obvious there until Mazeki then points him out after Mazeki's message.
Then I would follow Mazeki.
And he goes, "Are you all warriors? You look the part."
We've been known.
Problem solvers.
We've been known to investigate certain things from time to time.
Though we are quite capable in combat, our skills are very diverse.
Okay. I think that you may be able to help me then, and I hope that you will accept. As I said, I am from the floating belt. Do you know much about it? I know it's far away from here, and you probably do not, but I am surprised every day by what people do and do not know.
Do I know anything about the floating belt?
Never heard of it.
Everybody that would like to know, make an intelligence check, and we'll see if it's something that you've come and heard any stories about.
So just general
Negative.
intelligence, not like a history or nature?
Yep, just general intelligence check, because it's on the other continent, so it's not something that you would know a lot about, unless it's something you've heard about to begin with. So
I got a 21.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
13.
okay.
Okay.
So Satsi, yes, it is something that you have definitely heard about. As far as what you know about it, go ahead and then give me both a history check and a nature check.
Zerda got a 17. I rolled with disadvantage since he's from
All right.
Untitled Mountain.
Yeah.
For history, I got a 10, and nature, I got a 12.
Okay. So you know that the floating belt is a region of cities over in Manway. With your history check, you know that they have been around for as long as the written history has been. With your nature check, you know that the floating belt is an extension, in a way, of the Dragging Teeth Mountains, which line the western coast of Manway. There's an opening in a massive desert where the mountains just stop. And then they continue once you reach the other side of the desert. And the floating belt is that gap of mountains who travel throughout the desert, throughout the sands, leaving their trails along as they go. So you can clearly track where each bit of the mountain goes. But it's not a stationary mountain.
Okay, so the gap in the Dragon Teeth Mountains is basically a mountain that went rogue and is going around the desert?
Yep. It's a group of
Okay.
mountains, but yes. That is what you know of it.
I think they're called a chain of mountains usually when they're in a group.
I mean, they're each individual ones. They used to be a chain, but they split
Well,
off.
now they're just exploring themselves, you know.
Yeah.
It's a phase.
So
That's so cool. This is
Okay.
my favorite geographical feature in the entire world we have that
Yeah.
I know about.
yeah. So as Sadzi replies with this information, um, you notice that as you are all replying in your head, you can hear each other. They're not just Aegon. Um, so you can each hear each other's responses as you talk. It's as if he has connected all of your minds to communicate. And he responds, "See? Impressed. Every day. You are right, my friend. We've run into a bit of trouble. About 4 months ago now, our mountain stopped. It no longer moves, and we do not know why. We have ancient stories that tell us that there is magic within the mountains, deep in the dragging teeth, separate from the floating belt that controls all of us and our homes, allows us to freely move about the desert. We have sent many people to go and investigate, and none have returned. But we were never a fighting people. We had no real need to be, due to our mobility and just the natural protection of a moving mountain. We weren't under much threat, and so we never had people that were tough and could go out and face the dangers ahead. Would you be willing to come and visit and investigate for us? Help us get our mountain moving again."
I mean, Mizaki's immediately 1000% on board for this, but he is concerned about the time limit.
Yeah, that's my main concern too, is that we've got the King's End Festival coming up. We need to meet with Marble. Can we ask Aegon how time sensitive this is? That we
How
have
many
other
trees?
commitments?
How many trees do they have on their mountain? Are there any trees nearby, Big?
Uh,
We could always pop over and pop back with a tree.
there are no nearby trees, but if your concern is just getting there, then I have a solution for you. And he pulls out a rock. It's about the size of his smaller hands, um, and he holds it out to you to take.
What is this rock?
He goes, "We have needed ways to find our way home quickly when we decide to venture off. And given that we are always moving, we never know where we're going to be. So many years ago, our people worked with a great artificer in the city of Steel to come up with a solution so that we could always go home. It requires a piece of our home. And with it, we can return. It has been enchanted to know where we are at all times and return itself to itself and any along with it who are in contact at the time."
Neat.
Okay. That is certainly an interesting bit of magic. Okay. I know we have commitments basically in 6 weeks and then in 8.
Yeah, shortly thereafter. So I feel like we should go for it and then try and locate a thing that we can use to return here via the staff.
Right, can we also ask Aegon,
Yeah, They
how
don't know
he
the
got here in the
rules.
first place, because if he's in Drusus, then he had to have found a way to come to Drusus. And perhaps we can use whatever way he did to come back, meet our obligations, and go back to the floating belt if we're not done at that time.
Yes, I traveled first to the city of Steel and then to Oberland's Haven, and came here on one of the many ships that set between Oberland's Haven and
Okay.
Orthrus, and then
How long has
came
it been
here.
since you have been home?
I've been gone traveling for the last 2.5 months.
Are you
How
gonna
long
come
was
back
your
with
home
us?
stationary before you left?
About a month and a half.
And you've received reports that it hasn't moved since you've been gone?
I have been in communication with my friends and family back home, and they are still stuck, and no one that we have sent has returned.
Are you
I
aware?
came here because those in the city of Steel and Oberland's Haven weren't able to accept my payment, and
What
here
is
I
your
figured
payment?
someone could. About 20 years ago, my family came into possession of a deed of a home here in Drusus, and it is all I have to offer to any who can find a solution for us. I have no gold or anything else to pay you, but I can give you the title, and you can have the home here. I can show you if you would like.
I think that would be a good start. Yeah.
And
Think about it on our way over.
he goes, very well, follow me, we can discuss on the way. And he begins leading you away from more of the government area that you're in into the residential areas of Drusus.
So Mazeki's just gonna focus on, I guess, as they walk, that he's gonna explain that if they can find a large enough plant or tree of some kind, then they can come back almost immediately to here, and so that'll be something that they would want to identify soon after they got there, just to make sure that they could get back in time.
Mhm.
You might
There,
have to take a plant in a pot at that rate.
yeah, there aren't any trees in our desert. There are a few cacti and things, and the mountains themselves do not bear any trees. They are mostly just stone. We have carved many tunnels throughout them in which we live and can hide from the heat.
How big
But
is the cacti?
uh, about our size, not
Okay, so small. Okay,
too big.
darn. Because like some saguaro cactuses can get pretty massive.
I was gonna say maybe we can just hop, desert to desert.
I
And
may
then
have an answer to our situation. We will have to go shopping shortly. If I'm able to find the item I'm thinking of, we may have a solution.
Is
Yes.
there like a token or something we can use to turn into?
Yeah, I was thinking
There
of the tree token.
is. There's a tree token. Nice.
If we get
all
a
right.
couple of those, we could basically leave our own gateways from time to time.
60 feet
Supposing that other people
tall.
don't cut them down.
Well,
Sure,
yeah,
sure, sure.
and
It,
it's
it
just a
could
normal
almost be done
tree
in a
too.
move.
Like,
Yeah, it
Yeah.
so
becomes a
it might
normal tree
die.
after it's cast. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
We just spawn a tree like as we're falling. Teleport.
I don't think
Well,
that works. I think you actually have to put the token on the
Oh,
ground
it has to
and
be on the
support the
ground.
tree. Yeah, you have to. I
So
think
what
if
you
the
do is you pour out some sand to make
Throw
ground
it.
as you fall.
I got a jar of dirt.
Right.
It counts.
And so, as you continue and you have this conversation, you're led to this fairly large house. It has a stone fence going around it, and has a small little front yard, and opens up um, into a large common room. For those of you that are interested in seeing the map and seeing the house, it is in um, fantasy grounds. It is the player's mansion, and it's a 2-story house. So there's the player's mansion, and then there's the player's mansion floor 2. And you can take a look at kind of the layout of it, and I will flip the stream so that the stream can see it as well real quick.
That's a pretty generously sized house.
Yeah, so it's 2 floors. And so this is the first floor. It has a nice dining area, kitchen, and brewery, as well as a fairly large library and a bedroom on the first floor, as well as a few various lavatories. So there's 2 bedrooms, one fairly large one, and one regular sized one. And then up on the second floor, there are a lot more bedrooms. And I didn't actually flip to the second floor like I thought I did. There we go. Flip to the second floor. So there's a lot more bedrooms and a much larger lavatory. And then there's also an alchemy lab there, as well as a small kitchen. And then there's a massive training room, which has a bunch of weapons and things and dummies that you can use for various training.
And looks like there's also a pretty large bathroom as well with tubs.
It looks
Yes.
pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, the lavatory. So, with the tubs. So.
Oh, I thought you said laboratory is with B as a Bravo,
Yeah,
not V
there's
as a
also
Victor.
a laboratory as well. So.
A laboratory.
Yep.
My laboratory.
Yeah, and so there's 3
Well,
more bedrooms, or 4 more bedrooms on this floor, and so there's 6 in
it's on
total.
the master.
Yeah. So the master is
Yeah.
downstairs, and it is huge.
Yeah,
Has its own
dibs.
private lavatory.
Yeah, look at that.
So.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, there's one upstairs
And-
that has a covered bed and
And I'm not
Fireplace.
taking the stairs.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, I think we can try this. The biggest thing will just be we need to make sure we have to have a way to give back. But it sounds like we have a plan, possibly, or he might have something.
Mhm.
Wait, if we
So
get the
there is a backyard, which does have a large enough tree for you and your purposes.
Oh, good to know. That was
Fantastic.
going to be my next question: is what if that tree was large enough?
I was gonna say we could always put the token down in the backyard so no one would bug it, but hey, this is even better.
The token will probably need to be at the destination. Was our
There is
concern
also
before we
an
get the mountain.
orange tree.
I thought
in
you
the
had to have
backyard
2.
as well.
Orange tree.
Yep.
It only has a single orange to indicate. Oh no, there's 3. Nice. Are those pumpkins?
Orange juice.
No, they're just giant oranges. Nice. Those oranges are like 5 feet across. Huge
Maybe they're
oranges.
grapefruit.
Okay, so I guess
Could it
we've
actually
got a
be
plan.
pumpkin?
Pumpkins are orange.
Yeah, and pretty large. Could be.
And so
Yeah, but
as
pumpkins
you
grow on vines, not trees.
are all looking around, Aegon goes, "Is this an acceptable payment for the task ahead?"
I think that as long as we can find a way to return within time, I think that this is definitely something matching our usual modus.
I understand your time commitments, and you have a way back to us immediately. We understood that there was going to be some kind of time delay on getting people back normally. If you have other commitments that you can't leave for, if you can come as soon as you are able, that would be much appreciated. We are dead in the water, for lack of a better term.
Timeline-wise, we're still a couple months away from the festival, right?
Yes.
The
So
8
we
weeks
can maybe go there and
and
come
the
back.
6 yeah, that's their goal. Is that if we can't get it done in the 6 weeks, we'll pop back as we need and like figure out a thing where hopefully we can return back there afterwards if we can. But
Mhm. Yeah. So you are, given the state of the desert and the things, you're unlikely to find a tree or anything to return back, but you could always head to Steel and then pay your way back again through the um, teleportation circle there. So there is always that way back. You can always, again, just get to this later.
Aegon.
Sounds like it's ruining their lives.
Yeah. Could we maybe agree on a time to meet maybe later if we want to go forward with this, just so we all have time to get our stuff together?
And then Ori wanted to take off.
Aegon, in the interim before we're able to begin on your issue, could we rent this house for the time being as we gear up and prepare?
You may stay here for the time being. I will turn over the title upon completion of the task. If we don't see you by the end of the second month of next year, I will return to kick you out of this home.
Understood. We do not wish to um, inconvenience you. We just have other pressing business at the moment. What is the urgency of your people? Are there threats that are amassing against you, or is it just natural dangers?
Natural dangers, being stationary in the desert further away from the oases and the water is not good for anybody. The longer that we are stuck, the more our resources will deplete.
Understood. And how large of a community is at risk?
Our mountain is one of the smaller ones, but we stand about 15,000.
Are there other mountains that move through the belt?
There are many.
Have any of them also ceased to be able to move?
We've heard communications that a few of the other small ones have also stopped. The larger ones are still functioning for the time being, but we have no clue how long that will last.
Were there any events that preceded the lack of travel?
Not to our knowledge. It just stopped moving.
Understood. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, quick question for Aegon. Do they have any particular divines that they worship or who are over the area?
We worship many. There isn't a particular one that our city as a whole worships.
Are there any that you do worship that have any particular connection with either the mountains, the desert, or um, possibly the artificer in steel who made your um, homing beacon rock?
Uh, a lot of us worship the arcane, Pedril. Magic is definitely in his realm. There are several that worship Nadir Vinebraids, the goddess of the lost, as well. As far as the desert, not particularly. Um, Many worship the dwarven gods as well, those of stoneworking, Bor Greymantle, and we even have some who worship Kelson, the goddess of the sky.
What is the name of your town, or is it just the name of your mountain?
We are just the floating belt, is what we are known as. The mountains each refer to them as such. Given that we are not a stationary place to find on a map, we just call ourselves the entire region. It's not uncommon over in Manway, the Thousand Lakes. They also just kind of refer to themselves as the Thousand Lakes, as there are several water spots just scattered about on the northern edge of the desert, and many cities have been set up next to them.
But it's not named as independent villages. They are just a collective.
Correct. And we in the floating belt are the same.
Interesting.
Do the lakes move too, or is it just the mountains?
It is just the mountains that move, which is why us being stuck and not getting near any of the lakes or the water in the desert is dangerous for us.
Are there any other moving geographical features in the region, or are other locations? You mentioned an oasis. Does the oasis move as well, or is it stationary to the region?
It's stationary on the far eastern side of the desert, right above the Immortal Lake.
The Immortal Lake?
That is the name of the large lake on the eastern side of Manway. It butts up against the desert of the floating belt and drains off into the sea to the east towards the Sorcerer's Wing.
Do I know anything about this lake? Like, why it's called the Immortal Lake?
This is all another continent that you guys have never really been to.
Fair.
You've been for a brief time in Steel and didn't have enough time to really gather much information.
Cool.
Okay. This sounds wild. I'm in.
This sounds fun.
And of course, our very own favorite arcane seems to be involved again. Pedro, who decided to show up in our dreams, and now who knows what else he's involved with.
Well, I guess this means that gun's gonna have to wait a little longer. Zerdig says with a little bit of chagrin.
Well, we do have to get our supplies together and all. Hopefully Mizeki can advise us as to what we might need being in the desert.
So Aegon will continue and say, when you are ready, hold out the stone. Each of you, make sure you are touching it, and then crush it between your hands. Doing so will activate its magic and will teleport you directly to my mountain.
Alrighty.
I believe you will be hearing from us or seeing us shortly to help you resolve this issue.
I hope so. At which point he pulls out a second rock and squeezes it in his small hand, and as the bits and pieces fall to the ground, you watch as he just vanishes in the cloud of
Did
dust.
he already give us a key?
He gave you one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if we didn't have one, I'm here. So between Miseki and Zerdig, we could get the door open.
Does this house have caretakers, or is it just there's no like live-in?
There's no
Attempt-
live-in. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Dang it.
You can hire some if you want.
Well, that's true. I think my next move after, like, we get our stuff from the inn is going to be heading to the library to see if there's anything on this area of the world.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that was my plan.
All right.
What does the roof of this place look like?
So it's a fairly nice wooden roof. It is angled so that rain and water can run off of it. At just a slight angle, your typical roof there. Nothing
So
super
there's
special
not
about it.
no flat spaces to be able to get up on the roof very easily or comfortably.
No.
Gotcha.
So, but you have a yard that you can get out in if you just want to be outside. So, and it's completely fenced in. So,
What's the rest of the neighborhood look like?
this is definitely one of the nicer neighborhoods in Drusus. It's not the nicest and the richest areas, but it's a fairly well-off neighborhood. So,
Good school system.
excellent school system.
What's the bikeability?
Nice parks.
The bike ability,
Yeah.
for you, it's impossible. They just
Okay.
don't have centaur bikes.
We need to talk to Glitterbelt about that.
But everybody else, it's fairly bikeable. Drusus
I want to
is
see you get roller skates.
fairly flat of a town, so there's not many hills and things that would make biking complex. So,
All right. We have a house now. And all we have to do is make a mountain go. You understand the first thing we're going to do when we get there is have you tried turning it off and on again?
So we have to move mountains to acquire this domicile.
That does. I think it's just a mountain, but yes.
all right. So it sounds like there was maybe a change of plans on what you guys wanted to do. Now all of you want to go to the library to investigate now that you have this?
That's our backup plan always is go to the local library
Okay.
and speak to the librarians.
Right. Well, because I knew before Sadzi wanted to go to Marbles and just hang out there and see what information she could glean from people talking.
PSA to support your local libraries, y'all.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't do like that stupid city did where they voted to close theirs and then we're all like, oh my god, the library closed.
Yeah.
Libraries are the first and last bastion of any civilization.
Okay. But yeah, you can definitely make your way to the library. What information are you wanting to research? And has that changed? Because I know Mizeki was wanting to research something at first, and now it sounds like you want to research Manway and the floating
Mizeki
belt.
will probably, while everyone else is looking at floating belt stuff, look into if he can find anything else about helping free his patron.
Okay.
And or why his patron was imprisoned.
Okay.
And I need to step away for a few minutes.
All right. All right. So everybody that is investigating, go ahead and give me investigation checks. We'll see what you're able to uncover in the library about the floating belt.
Got a 21.
Okay. Is anybody else investigating or just Satsi?
I'm just waiting on my dice. I got a 14.
14? Okay.
Zurich can help out.
Okay.
He got a 9.
Think we can convince Ito to help us?
Perhaps. I mean, your 21 is sufficient. But you're able to pull out books that have histories about Manway and about the Dragging Teeth Mountains that the floating belt split from. No information about how it works, just that before the age of Folly, the mountains split off and began roaming the desert. It's believed to be the work of a great mage at the time, but there's no concrete evidence that they did anything. But mountains just don't start moving on their own.
Do we know when Pedro was active?
So Pedro's one of the divines, and so he's been around from the beginning.
Okay. I must have misremembered them because I thought he was like a mage that had been elevated or something.
Yeah, no, Pedro is as one of the divines has been around from the beginning. He was a name that came up because you had been asking about a specific divine that you guys had seen.
Mm-hmm.
And Pedro was the name that came up about that for the description of what he looked like.
Right. When Aegon mentioned the mage that created the magic transport rocks, he said that was quite a while ago, right? Was it around the same time?
No, he said it was a few years ago. In total, it was like he didn't give you an exact age, but it was only like 20 years ago. So it's a relatively new development.
I would focus
Okay.
my specific research on the region into government structures for the area.
Hmm.
Any notable names or individuals or families that play any integral parts. What the trade of the region is, if there is any trade, and any any notable flora and fauna in that area as well.
Okay. All right. Let me grab the counselor. Yeah. So the counselor. Um, let me just double check here that this is the country I think it is. Yes. Okay. Um, I want to say that this was. I gotta double check my notes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is part of the Thousand Lakes Nation because it's the desert. And the counselor, current counselor, is Drick Puck, and she is a Thrycreen as well.
Can you spell that?
Yeah, Drik, and then dash Pok.
So Drick Pock.
Mhm.
All right.
And she is the current counselor over the Thousand Lakes, which includes the desert, which is the floating belt as well. So basically, that's the entire desert nation is the Thousand Lakes. So
Got ya.
and then
Any other notable families or individuals of
uh,
note?
yeah, so the other notable family is the Cooper family, who is a mostly human family, but has a few halves in there as well. And the reason that it's notable is that Nitrex Cooper, who is a half orc, is the current Grand Counselor of Manway, and she is from Thousand Lakes.
So that's Nitrex Cooper. She is the Grand Counselor of all of Manway. She's from Thousand Lakes.
Yep. So she's Marble's position, just on the other continent.
Gotcha.
Okay. I guess I'll probably focus more on the history and like what was happening as far as we know. Um when the floating belt separated from the dragon teeth, if there's any, I guess, fairy tales or anything like that. Um and if there's anything, I guess, connected with steel or any mages or big magic happenings, I guess, that have occurred and have affected the area.
Right. So one of the key points that you find is that the Thousand Lakes is relatively new compared to the history of the world, and that the area used to be a lot more flooded, and so it wasn't as many lakes because they were one massive lake instead of several smaller lakes scattered all throughout the desert. And so it used to be a very flooded area, and now it is dried up and desert and sand. And so what is in the lakes is pretty much all that is in the lakes.
Okay. Do we have a timeline for when that desertification started?
It is right around the time that the Age of Folly happened, which again lines up with right around when the mountains split from the dragging teeth, because that was just before the Age of Folly.
So the mountain split and then it started drying out?
Yep.
What was the major trade for the region?
The major trade in Thousand Lakes, they don't
Yes.
have a major trade. They're a pretty
Okay.
self-sufficient and independent nation. They don't have anything that they can really produce. And as far as trade routes for them, it's not easy to come across because
Of the
most
mobility, yeah.
of the mobility is it just makes it hard to get anything done and taken care of. Um,
And any notable creatures or types of plants? Obviously, with being at desert, they have desert cacti, based on what the guy said. Anything else of note that I can find?
not in that area, so there's not any other notable fauna there.
Was Immortal Lake created around the time the desertification started? Or was that kind of always there and separate?
It was always there and separate. So the Thousand Lakes is more on the northern side of the desert and stretches from west to east all the way across. And the Immortal Lake is on the southern edge and the eastern edge of the desert.
Okay. I guess what's the Are there any large cities closer than like Steel?
The
Or
the closest large city to the floating belt is going to be Hook's Helm, which is on the southern side of Immortal Lake. That's going to be the largest city to it. Other large cities that are nearby is going to be Weathering, which is to the south of the floating belt, and then cities that you would have read about is Golden Ruff. That is a dwarven city in the Dragging Teeth Mountains to the south of the floating belt. And then as far as to the north, the only city of note before you cross the Great River is Herod's Ford, which is itself built on the river.
do any of these cities have a reputation for being centers of magic?
Uh, no. None of them have like major magical drives. The largest magical cities over in Manway is going to be Steel, and then Port Town, which is on the Sorcerer's Wing, which is an island part of Manway. If you look at Manway, because Manway looks like a person from some aspects of maps, it is the left arm is the Sorcerer's Wing, or I guess the right arm if you're looking at the map. But if it was a person looking at you, it would be their left arm. So it's the furthest east on the map. If you go and look at the map.
Okay. I was just wondering if maybe, there was some kind of magical happening gone wrong and that would be more likely to take place where you've got, you know, more of a center for mages.
Right, and Aegon, um, spoke about how, to their information and history, that there is something underneath the Dragging Teeth Mountains that caused the magic and started this. And so whether that's to the south of it or the north of it, he did not specify. Whether he knows or not is a question you'll have to ask when you decide to go there. But he basically said, we don't really know. We've sent people to investigate into the Dragging Teeth and no one's returned. So,
Well, this is going to be a fun little puzzle.
yep.
Should take us no time at all walking through the desert and checking 2 different mountain ranges.
Yeah, I mean, I guess technically now it is 2. It is still considered 1. It is just the Dragging Teeth. It just has a north side and a south side now.
So we're going to ride through the desert on a horse with 3 names?
Sure.
Gentrified the mountains.
Okay. I know we also were gonna investigate that dude who's supposedly been running around and trying to commit violence against the divines. Do we know of anything he's done that would be like within the last 4 months or so?
Not that you've heard of. But that was why Alondiel wants to stay for the King's Festival, is he believes something about the statue that you guys found out was going to be revealed is tied to that in some way.
Do we know when that statue began creation?
No. You just know that because you got Orion drunk, he let it spill that it was even being revealed this year. Otherwise, it wouldn't be something you guys would even know until the festival happened. So.
Right. Okay. Putting on my to-do list, get Orion drunk again for more state secrets.
I mean, and that was all Ito's doing. So, go Ito.
Okay. Make Ito get Orion drunk again.
Yeah. I mean, you were too busy with Duke, so.
Don't hate.
Yep. And then I'm sure there's some other things that you guys have to investigate that I'm just not remembering at the moment, but those were like the major things. So.
Our to-do list is lengthy.
Yeah, it is.
We might want to collaborate on that being an actual literal list at some point.
Yeah, you have a to-do list and a to-want list. Because I know on your want list, Mizeki wants to go get a plant from Utra and then see if you guys can find Fertile Blessing. And then Ore wants to go visit Moongazer Spire. And so those are a couple things on your want list. But you have no other reasons calling you to those places yet. So
While I'm in this library, after we kind of do that research on the Floating Belt and Thousand Lakes, Ore's going to go start looking for books specifically on the history of Thalia.
Okay.
And try and discern any notable happenings with Thalia around the 2,000 year ago mark.
Okay. I mean, so the biggest notes of that is, with all of the divines, is that's roughly the time of the Age of Folly when that began. And so that 2,000 year mark, that's like the note for pretty much every divine about that, how they caused various troubles amongst the world. So, but you do find older history about how Moongazer Spire was sometimes used as a temple to Thalia, given its purpose was to examine the stars.
with finding out that during the Follies, all the divines were involved in some aspect of it, what do I find was Thalia's, or what is credited to Thalia for terrible events during the Folly?
So there isn't anything specific about her or about what she did, because no one knows what any divine did. Just, the divines did this during the Age of Folly. And so there was mass
Gotcha.
punishment from the divines on the world.
But it wasn't like specific divines created specific follies. It's the divines,
Yeah, we don't know.
as collectively, were behind the follies.
Correct. And
Got ya.
the follies are generally named after the person or persons that were responsible for what the divines found disfavorable and punished them for. So Typhon's
Got ya.
folly and Utra's folly. Typhon and Utra were people. So,
Right. Gotcha.
but yeah.
Okay. Well, that's the research that I wanted to follow Mazeki to do, was on any specific events of note at that around the period of my memories.
Okay. All right. Well, with that research and those quick questions answered, this is our normal stopping point. So we will go ahead and end our session here. And then hopefully Alandiel will be back with us next time, because I know that they had various things that they wanted to do in Drusus, especially concerning the King's End Festival and that statue coming up. So we definitely want them to be a part. But
And I'll get together my letter and questions I have to research.
Yep, and everybody, if you have any other questions that you want, go ahead and get those to me in the next couple weeks before our next session, and I'll get back to you on what you find. And until then, we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.